Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tabacco and Kevin Acuff.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tabacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and I am joined once again in the Gurkha Cigar Studios by my old friend Mitchell Santaga, who's with us. And Kevin is on a business trip right now, so he couldn't make it, so Mitchell was able to step in and pinch hit. But I do have a guest with me. I have my first in-studio guest. This is, with the exception of John Carney, who I feel like doesn't count because he was an original member of this show. So like a true guest for the first time in the Smokin Tabacco Lounge. Brandon Marsh from Big Sky Cigars.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, Matt.
Absolutely, dude. This is awesome. I remember, it wasn't too long ago. Once we had this completed and I said, Nicole and I had said, when we had our real lounge someday, we're going to have our studio space, and I'd love to have people over and host. We're host people, and I've had people ask me before about, hey, can I come over and do the show with you? And I don't know, our old studio space just kind of wasn't what I would have liked it to be to entertain. So now that we do, I put out there, and Brandon was like, hey, I'm going to be up next week. I'm like, lucky for you, I have nobody scheduled, so you're coming over. So yeah. Terrence Riley was here last week, but he wasn't on the show, so that doesn't count because he wasn't a show guest. So you are the first show guest that's in studio for us. This is awesome.
I was honestly very surprised how quickly, I was expecting us to go an entire year almost without a single person showing up in person, and literally a week after you put out that, 2 people just show up, and you're just like I think even Coop was like, oh, good luck getting the industry to come over, can't even take a selfie, never mind show up to your house. And here you have it. It's we got Brandon and
I know it's nice, and Brian Sonia's here too. For those who know Brian, he's here. Love Brian, and it's always nice. I was saying this last week because, like I said, Terrence and John were here. They weren't on the show, but they were here, and it was nice because it was almost like having a live studio audience because there was some shit that was being said, and then they would chime in, and I'm like, This is what Garofalo feels like on the Cigar Authority. I'm like, I like this. I need to have a live audience more often.
It pumps the move up.
Pumps the mood up. It enhances the experience.
Oh, 100%.
And it's all about the experience.
100%. I mean, that's why we all smoke cigars, right? That's why you make cigars. You're trying to create an experience for people, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the dream. So, but anyway, look, Brandon, you're here in the studio. I won't dick around too much. Maybe a little bit more. We'll see. I got a couple of stories I might tell tonight, but we'll see. Great to have you on the show. You were on the show last year. It was the first time you came on. I think it was last year, just before PCA.
Correct.
Which was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I know you're going into your third PCA this year, or your second. This is your third PCA, right?
We are third.
Yeah. So, kind of to recap from the last time you were with us, how was your show last year? I mean, we're kind of in that pre-PCA pre-game season now. How was last year's show for you?
It was the best show that we've had. And we didn't really know how it was going to play out because we were in the back of the bus with all the cool kids. And
always.
It was really cool because I always look at our floor map to see who's by us when we plan our show, a booth selection. And
yeah,
right before the show, I see that AJ Fernandez is right behind us. And I was just like, oh, man, everybody's going to be going to AJ, so they're going to walk by our booth and come say hi. And it was kind of cool because you walk by our booth, but we had this big 20-foot black backdrop, so you couldn't even see AJ's booth. So, you're walking towards his big pavilion that he had, and all you just see is Big Sky. And then I was just had kind of a marketing idea, and I was just like, well, if everybody's going to be in AJ's booth, why don't I make my backdrop double-sided? So when everybody's sitting in AJ Fernandez, they just see Big Sky while they're sitting there talking to his reps. And
genius.
It ended up being our best show that we've had. It was great. We sold a lot of boxes. For us, it was our best show that we Yeah, it was great.
Opened a lot of new accounts.
New accounts.
You know what? For me, when I walked by it, another really cool kind of spot you had was there was kind of like these main. You had these smaller arteries throughout the trade show, but there was these like main arteries that were like extra wide, and people just flocked towards those areas because it was easier to move and you weren't bumping into people. And you guys were like right along one of those main arteries where people were transitioning, coming in and out, and a lot of companies, they go with these like kind of square plots, and it kind of like it squanches them into these like little corners, and you can almost like walk right by them and not even realize you went by a brand. But yours was like skinny and long, like you took up like a lot of surface area, and it was super easy to find the booth. It was like, again, you're coming down one of these main arteries, you were right there, right at the corner, and like you said, you'd have no idea AJ was right behind you.
Yeah, we felt like we had the whole corner. It's like
Yeah.
we paid for a 10 by 20 booth, but I felt like we had like a quarter of the show floor space. It was awesome.
You know, I've heard similar feedback on those corner spots. There's been a few other manufacturers that are like, yeah, like we have a small booth, but like we're on the corner. And then after the show, they've been like, yeah, they're like, we didn't have the biggest booth, but because of like where we were on the corner, we felt like we got, and it was like a main corner. They felt like they got so much more traffic than they anticipated just because it was at such an intersection.
Yeah.
And I've heard this. It's funny you say that because I think Micallef was on the corner one year and they said the same thing. They're like, yeah, like it was great. We were like right there, and it just felt like, you know, we for some reason we were just more accessible and it worked well. So that might be the secret right there. Get a corner spot.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we did some little guerrilla marketing too. Hopefully PCA isn't watching, but we passed out all our catalogs in the cafeteria area. So we just, on every table, we put our Big Sky catalog. So
I did see that.
So when people were sitting there eating food, they'd be browsing through our Big Sky lineup. Like, we wanted to make sure that everybody at the show saw us and knew who we were.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Good for you, though. No, but seriously, good for you, though, because, you know.
And I own the rights for that this year, so if anybody tries that, I'm going to replace your stuff.
You'll just see Brandon come by in his cowboy hat being like, not this year. This is my table. Just throwing your pamphlets away.
And you guys had one major release last year, right? Was it the Blackfoot for last year that came out?
Correct. Yes.
How'd that move for you guys during the show and this past year?
We're sold out. So
Wow.
it was great. We're sold out of what we moved to the States. We still have 20,000 cigars resting in the DR. We have the next batch coming up for this year's show. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
but it moved great. Had a lot of positive feedback with it. People love that cigar. Chico, that was our first cigar that we made in the DR. Our first 7 cigars were Nicaraguan. And so Chico did a great stick with that when we blended that with him. And yeah, it was just very well received.
Yeah, I remember last year you were talking about it and kind of like, oh, this is what we're doing for PCA. And to be honest with you, I don't think, Mitchell, you went to their booth last year, right? Because I don't think I saw you like at the booth last year because we were kind of divided and conquered.
Yeah, Mitchell came by.
I did the interview, yeah.
Yeah. So I personally, I don't even think I've actually caught up with you since the show last year. So I like as we're talking, I'm like remembering like our conversation from last year when you were on the show, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. There's all these things that like I wanted to refresh on, and the Blackfoot. I remember the Blackfoot last year. I mean, that was one of the things we talked about, and it's funny because I'll be honest with you. I remember last year when you came on. I mean, you had reached out to me, and I said, of course, we'd love to have you on the show. And I always like to meet new brands and get to know people and stuff like that. That's half of what we do. I mean, it's like providing a platform, right? So, but I wasn't super familiar with the brand, and it was funny because like we met, and then we went to the trade show like right after you were on, and then I remember coming back and I started seeing your cigars up here, and I was like, oh shit. I know them. I remember him. Yeah, Brandon. That they make some good cigars. They're good people, and I was excited to see they were in shops up here. And it's tough because a lot of the shops up here, they're great shops. They carry a lot of great cigars, but I feel like there's a lot of times I meet a lot of small little brands and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, these are cool, and I don't see them quite make their way up to New Hampshire right away.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the shops up here are very selective with what they bring in.
I'd agree.
And that's not a knock either. That's not a, bringing in product has to be, the right move from both sides. as I'm sure you've kind of come to know. And but when I saw that, I was like, wow, I got Big Sky's already up here. I'm like, that's awesome. And I know that you guys are in Two Guys now, and I don't know if you're in Twins. I don't know, are you in Twins yet?
Not yet. It's in the works. It's a meeting that we have lined up. Right now we're in Two Guys, the 3 locations, Smokin' Joe's, Castro's,
Plastow?
Plastow,
Yeah.
Cigar Shenanigans. That was
Okay.
our first New Hampshire account. Penny and Tino brought us in, and I mean, they're just a hoot. But Penny's been great. Tino's cool. But yeah, just New Hampshire's been a great market for us. Been very well received, and just just happy to be here.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
it's a
guys.
great place.
If you are looking to see where Big Sky is carried, just head over to bigskyscigars.com/locations. They've got an easy to use map. Shows you where every single brick and mortar carries their stuff. Or just order direct from consumer right off their website. One of the two.
You can
Easy
also
peasy.
go to the number 2 guyscigars.com. That's right, the number 2 guyscigars.com. You'll find an amazing selection of cigars and cigar accessories from all over the industry, including Big Sky cigars. You'll find them there. Order them there. Order them from the number 2 guyscigars.com. And that brings us to what we're smoking tonight. Brandon is our guest. I'm going to let you go first. It looks to me like you're smoking the Blackfoot.
We are smoking the Blackfoot.
Yeah.
And this was in Two Guys contender of the year. I guess it would have been in their contender of the year, but it was in the episode where they said cigars that could have been contender of the year but didn't quite make it.
Okay.
And I remember I was watching the episode, and Mr. Jonathan says, yeah, Big Sky with Blackfoot. It was contender of the year. We weren't sure if they could meet the demand if we would have made them the cigar of the year. And Dave was like, "Oh, that'd be a great feather in the hat for a small company like that." And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? If those guys would have called me, I was like, I can make anything happen if somebody wants to make it happen. Like, I make stuff happen. Like that's the name of the game, right? So next time, Mr. Jonathan, if you're watching this, call.
Always call. You never know. You can make dreams come true.
Oh yeah.
I'm just almost finished with, and I'll probably move on to something else after. But I'm smoking the Mad Minnow, which I hadn't actually had this. I've smoked, I think, almost all of the other cigars, but I don't think I ever had the Mad Minnow. And I saw it, and I said, "Oh, that's a cool little like perfecto," and it really caught my eye. And so I said, "I want to smoke that." I'll tell you, man. What does this retail for? $6?
$6-7.
This is a great fucking little cigar.
Yeah.
It's not too strong, but it's got plenty of flavor. It burns really well. You can tell it's got a good construction. It's got good quality tobaccos. It's got a nice blend. It's nice and complex, but it's not overpowering. And I'll tell you, this is a badass little cigar.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, Jess and I were from Montana. We're from the north, and being up north, you can't really smoke a Toro outside and enjoy it on most days during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, well, we want to design a cigar that you can smoke 20, 30 minutes, and it's going to have flavor. It's going to have a little oomph to it. And we came out with the Mad Minnow. And, yeah, it just delivers that. So if somebody's looking for a great 20, 30-minute smoke, try the Mad Minnow out. You'll love it.
And they come in boxes of how many?
30.
30 count box. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm really excited about this cigar. I don't know what it is, but it's just all around. This cigar fires on all cylinders. It's a great little cigar. I want to smoke this all the way down. I'm gonna be sad when it's
It's a
gone.
cigar made for the north.
Yeah. Hey,
Absolutely.
we're in New Hampshire, and Mitchell's in Canada. I mean, if that's not the north, I don't know what is. That's the Great White North.
I always, I love doing reviews, but sometimes I complain that some of the cigars I have to review are just too long because even though I do get to smoke inside, a lot of the times when I get to the lounge, it's still the same temperature as it was outside because no one's there and I have to warm the place up. And I'm like, before I had that, I was reviewing outside. And it was the first few
that can be
reviews,
rough
I'm sitting
too.
out there for 2 hours, and it's 45 degrees, 55 degrees outside, and I'm just like in 7 layers of clothing with a heater on me, and something like that, it works.
It's tricky to do so. As a reviewer, I don't review as much as the team does, but these guys, they review all the time. I just currently don't have quite the time for it, so they handle it. But I don't really like to speak first person on this, but I've done it before, and I know what it entails. But reviewing a cigar out in the cold like that, I mean, it's kind of tricky because that cold weather can affect the cigar, and then it impacts the performance and the score, and it's a little bit of an unfair caveat to it. So it's nice that you were able to have that spot now, because you kind of eliminate that problem. Because I know there's a few others who just based on their photos, I they're outside like in their review, and I'm like, I wonder like how has that impacted that score though?
I mean, you're smoking a cigar in a dry cold.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite of where you want to smoke something. And
yeah.
So it's hard. That's like if you're going to review something, you give it a great review, that's a good cigar. So.
Yeah.
But then if it's a bad review, you're like, well, like, oh, I had to keep relighting it, and it kind of split on me. It's like, well, yeah, but like you were smoking it out in the snow, so like this isn't an accurate review. Like, especially if it's like Cameroon or something like Fragile too, where it just goes like in the first 5 minutes of being out there. It's like, well, I mean, what did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, that's good, Mitchell. That's that's good that you have that spot. And also, Mitchell, what are you lighting up with us tonight?
Unfortunately, I have nothing.
That's okay. I forgot you're not smoking with us.
I'm inside. I had to jimmy up a lounge last minute in my living room and get some weird lighting going on. I've got the mood lighting here today, but yeah,
the mood is set.
Unfortunately, couldn't light up today. The mood is set.
It's almost kind of like this like casting couch look.
Oh,
he's got like that like spotlight, and he's just like, so Mitchell, like, have you ever done this before? And he's like all nervous. Mitchell's very awkward and nervous sometimes. He's just like, yeah, it's my first time.
I should have just been on the
before.
couch.
Do you want me to take off my shirt? Oh, come on, Mitchell.
Sorry.
Don't pretend like you don't know.
Couple of buttons undone here.
Whoa.
Oh, are you following me? Should we button him down?
Mitchell's got all sorts of stuff going on over there. He's got that Italian heat, but he's got that Asian like flavor, and he's just tell ya, he's a sharp dude. You ever seen him like at the show when he gets dressed up at night and tries to copy Herclots? I tell you, that kid can clean up. Man,
He tries to copy Herclots. That's fair.
I'll tell you though, this kid cleans up good. I'm like, damn, that's what you're wearing tonight? Like, I feel like shit now.
Dapper's up.
I got dressed up. We
You know
went to a nice dinner. I got dressed up, and I was like, I saw what Mitchell was wearing. I'm like, I look like a hobo now. I'm like, don't walk next to me.
last PCA, I was trying to shoot for a suit every single night. Whether it was the same suit or not, you can only bring so many, right? But bring a couple of ties, spruce it up a little bit. But unfortunately, just due to some scheduling stuff, I couldn't get it, and I only ended up wearing a suit I think once or twice during the show. This year I'm really shooting for at least 5 nights out of the 6
right.
that I'm there.
You got
suiting up.
Suiting
up.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you
That's
get
the
another
plan.
shot this year. I hope you hit it
Yep.
because
I hope I hit it.
I know that'll be cool. And then you normally have the cowboy hat going, which I must say you look really well in the cowboy hat. You really pull that off. I feel like not everyone can do it.
I know I should probably put it on.
If you can, I mean, if you can't do it with the headset, like I understand, but like,
Just for the camera.
look at that. I didn't know Magic Mike was here tonight. Holy shit. Man.
The mystique.
I know. Do you have like a whole
It's-
collection of cowboy hats? Or is
I-
it just like the one hat?
No, I have different colors. I mean, you wear a felt during the winter and straw during the summer.
Okay.
So that's just a rule.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's nice. It makes sense, but I didn't know that was a rule.
It's if you see a guy wearing a felt during the summer, usually, unless it's all sweat stained, Usually it's they don't wear cowboy hats that often.
You're like, he's a phony. Nobody wears felt in the summertime. He isn't a real cowboy.
Were you raised on a farm?
Yes and no. My little brother, he's on the ranch. He's fifth generation on it.
Okay.
But we moved away. My dad, he was a pipeline welder.
Okay.
And so then my little brother went back. And so my little brother, Devin's on the ranch, and my cousin Jared are on the ranch, and they work it. My dad's there, my Uncle Tom, they run it. So
Suffice to say, I mean, you know how to ranch. Enough.
I've been there. I wouldn't say I know how. I've been to all the functions. Right? That's my dream. I think that's
You've gotten trashed there.
Yeah. Every family branding is just a big party. But obviously, the Big Sky Cigar. I'd love to have a Big Sky Cigar ranch one day. So,
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Like there'd be like kind of like headquarters or like also like a place where you can hold events for the brand and just in general, and kind of like a place for people to come.
Yeah.
It's something different, like everyone. A lot of brands are based in the DR and Nicaragua. Or like everyone's in Miami or what have you. There's a couple other brands elsewhere in the country, but it's usually like within the U.S. It's like down in Florida. But like, man, going out to a ranch for like a cigar event, it's different and it sounds like a great time.
It's a great time. Yeah.
I'd fly out to wherever just to do that.
Cigars just make it better. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm honestly pretty close to Montana. I could probably drive there.
That's true. I forgot about that.
We're about an hour south of Regina. So
there you go. It's a little far, but I could do it.
Yeah.
You could do it. Closer than me. I'd have to fly. I could drive,
Yeah.
but it would take me a few days. But yeah, you could probably make the drive from Vancouver. Let's talk about what we're cutting and lighting with. And it's very fitting Brian's here with us tonight, so this obviously is very appropriate. But we are using, and Brian, you probably know what this is, using our favorite accessories for our cutting and lighting tonight. That's right, only from ST Dupont, featuring the new Biggie lighter, courtesy of our friends at ST Dupont. Nothing but the best here at Smokin Tabacco. We like to have, products that we can rely on, stuff that's going to always work, and who better than ST Dupont? We've talked a lot about the Biggie lighters. There's the Biggie, and there's another flat flame, right? The Slimmy. So there's the Slimmy and the Biggie, the flat flame lighters, and we've talked a lot about the flat flame on the Spare No Show with
that
Coop
flame
and
again?
Kevin. Yeah, there it is right there.
Oh, it's so flat.
You almost can't see it, but the lighting. But yeah, there it is. And I'll tell you, the flat flame lighters, I don't know how much you've used them, Brandon, but I'll tell you, I really come to like them a lot. Kevin likes to always bring up that Carlito said one time that the flat flame torch is the closest thing to an actual soft flame that you can get with a torch lighter. And I think there's some truth to that in terms of the way that it lights, and especially when you're roasting and whatnot. But
I'd agree.
I think they're great. If you don't like a true soft flame, but you want that softer lighting experience, this is definitely the way to go. And contact your local ST Dupont retailer to check these out today. I want to say this retails for $3.99 for the Biggie. So a little bit more than your average lighter, but you get what you pay for. This lighter is going to last you a lifetime. So don't forget to check them out. ST Dupont, shake up the legacy. Brandon, we talked a little bit about kind of...
Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire.
That was on me. I clicked the wrong one. I apologize. Hey, I fucked up. I'll eat it. I'll own it. We talked a little bit about your show last year. We talked about when you were on the show last year and kind of what you had with the Blackfoot. Going into the show this year, we're only just about 30 days away. What's today's date? The 21st? Yeah, I don't remember what day the show starts.
Much.
The 20-something. I mean, we're about there. We're about a month out.
Like
We're about a month out. So, what do you guys got going on for the trade show this year? Do you have any new releases? Do you have any things you're adding on to? What's kind of like your game plan for this year?
So our blends are in the lab.
Okay.
It was just a little close with PCA coming up in March for us to launch a new product within 8 months.
Yeah.
with a newer brand, we didn't have that many new blends on deck. But we do have 2 new blends that we're working on, and we plan to release them in PCA 25.
Okay.
But what we do have offered is we're going to do a 5-pack of our River series. So that we had a 3-pack, and now we finally released our final cigar, the Blackfoot, which was our 5th. So we'll have that 5-pack that'll be available. And then we're also going to have officially released the Mad Minnow Fly Box.
That's right. I forgot about the fly box. You talked about that last year. So that's going to, and just as a recap, and for those maybe who don't know, that's going to be, the Mad Minnow is going to come out with the flies in the box, the whole collection of them.
Correct.
Now, it's interesting that I don't know if anyone else has done it, but I'll say you were first because you did talk about this last year. But there's also another brand out there now. I don't know if you saw. There's that Lure Cigars, and he's kind of doing something similar with that. I don't know if you've seen that or.
I've caught wind of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you. It's kind of like stealing your thunder, but it was a cool concept. But I know that you technically were there first, so
it's fine. There's a lot of people that love hunting and fishing in this world, and that's when Jess and I we started Big Sky when we were fishing up in Montana. And our fly box product, it's 8 hand-tied dry flies, 4 Mad Minnow cigars, and a magnetic bamboo case that fits in your pocket. I mean, it's an actual fly case.
Right.
That we had built to include 4 Mad Minnow cigars. So it's a functional piece of equipment that you can use while you're fly fishing.
Right.
So what those guys do, I hope them the best, but we stay in our own lane. But that fly box, it's a cool product. We did an initial release with a company. We sold 7,000 units, and it was a great release for us. And then we're going to make that to the public at this year's PCA.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's funny. We've had conversations, media people and whatnot, as you guys know. I mean, we talk a lot about some different things in the industry. And, one of the big things the last couple of years has been like everyone's doing a limited release. And, some of them are cooler than others. Some of them are better than others, just, but, you actually get down to well, who's doing something different? Mm-hmm. And, you see stuff like that and you're like, I can't think other than, the other company that I just mentioned that was, I think a few weeks ago we got that story, but that they are launching. But you had already been rolling with that, and it's you think about that stuff and you're like, wow, it's really different and it's kind of cool. And the other thing you think about too is it's cool to me, but as much as I appreciate and love it, I didn't get to grow up doing fishing and hunting and all that, although I hope I still have time in my life to get into it because I do love the idea of it, and I like going to Bass Pro Shops. But I just want to feel like I really belong at Bass Pro Shops.
It's a dangerous place.
I'll tell you, man, it is. I mean, you go in there and it's, my wife always goes over to the ammo section and the gun section, and then I go over to the grilling section and I get my pellets from my smoker, and I'm I look at the fishing area and I'm like, man, if I ever get into fishing, you get into some trouble here. But my point is though, there's a lot of people who are into that lifestyle who like yourself and who I'm sure love cigars, and for those people it's really cool to have something come out where you're like, oh shit, I identify with this, this is cool, I really get this, this is right up my alley, I'm a fisherman, I'm a hunter, whatever. So it's nice to see different things coming out that more of a demographic in certain groups of people can be connected with more. And I think that that's something special that you guys definitely bring to the market, is including a whole group of people who I think are big cigar smokers, but haven't been really fully represented.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
Well, you think when you enjoy a cigar, it's usually you want to be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be away from everything. And when you're out fishing, what are you doing when you're fishing? That exact same thing. When you're
smoking and drinking.
Yeah, right. And when you're hunting, when you finally get that trophy animal that you've been chasing after and tracking for the whole season, you're celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with cigars? You celebrate with them. So it comes hand in hand. It's a great pairing, and we've had success with it, and we identify with that, and we've, I want to say we will be the outdoors person's cigar. That's my goal. But even more than that, our sticks, the quality, they stand up and they speak for themselves. So
I would agree with that.
the thing about our cigars is when you pick it up, you try it, you go back for another one. And that's where I see success.
Right.
With that repeat.
Sure.
It's just not a one-off. So people do these limited runs because they say they want to try something new that they've never had before. But that's kind of a one-off, Like, where's that repeat success in that? If you're a true business person, what you want in business is you want a repeat customer. And so you need to have a product that's repeatable.
Of course.
And that's what our goal and our business goals are.
It's funny because a lot of brands out there, and again, it's not a knock on them, and a lot of these limiteds, that we've talked about, we've reviewed, they've been great.
There's some great, yeah.
But, it's funny is I feel like those always get so much attention because they're limited, they're special. But you talk to any of these brand owners, right? Like, people look at, some of like the limit stuff Drew Estate does. Liga Privada. Look at what the Fuentes do with Opus X. You look at, what Steve Saka does with some of his stuff that he has that's limited. But when you ask them, like, what keeps the light on, Carlito Fuente will tell you, 858 and curly heads keep the lights on at Fuente. Liga Privada, Drew Estate will tell you Liga Privada is not what keeps the lights on. Factory smokes, and acid, and that's what keeps the lights on. It's not the limited distribution. They get all the praise, but it's the stuff that I feel like a lot of people don't think about. Like that's what makes the money. Yeah. And it's true. And those are the people they're coming in and they're buying boxes, they're buying the bundles, and they don't talk about it. But that's what most people are buying, and it's that repeat, just like over and over and over, buying the box. Yeah, it's so true. It's a very true statement. I'm glad you brought it up because it's important. It doesn't get highlighted enough, but it's the truth of doing any business really, but especially this business.
100%.
So,
Brandon, do you have a favorite fish you like to go fly for? Whether rainbow, salmon. Anything up in Montana you really enjoy?
So there's not a lot of salmon in Montana. There's some kokanee salmon, but you don't fly fish for them. They're more of a lake fish. So when you're really fly fishing, you're going after bows and cutties and brown trout. You can go after some bass, but it's mostly after trout.
Trout. Yeah. Now, as much I know you like fishing too. Obviously, you do some hunting too.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you hunt the most? You hunt deer? Do you hunt bear, elk, whatever?
So it's how I grew up.
Turkey.
I've never hunted actually gone after turkeys when they've been like when they're gobbling.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always that elk. Elk is what you
really
wanted to go after. And then you focused on elk, and then when you got your elk, that's when you went after deer. And for me, deer was like you could get a deer at the last day of the season. So in Montana, like
meaning that they're easier to get.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So elk is a trickier hunt. So if you can get that down, then you go after the deer.
But I mean, if you get after a big soggy, nasty big whitetail or a nasty muley, like obviously that's cool. I mean, you got to work for it, you got to plan for it, you got to scout for it. And there's some really amazing whitetail and mule deer that people have gone after and got. And it takes a lot of time. But I've focused on elk, and then once I got done with elk season, then I went to deer.
Now, are you more, maybe I shouldn't ask this question this way, but because I guess I truly don't know, but are you more of, or do you enjoy more of, like, are you a rifle guy? Are you a bow guy? I don't know, like, if people kind of, like, stick to one, or if there's just, they do both, and it just, because I know there's different seasons for it, at least around here. Like, there's bow season, and there's rifle season.
Yeah. Yeah, so bow season, you're going after elk in the rut.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have an experience in life where the hair climbs on your neck, go after elk during bow season when they're in the rut, because when those elk are bugling, like you'll be out in the mountains camped out, and all of a sudden when they're during the rut and they start bugling at night, You'll wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you'll just be like, what is going on?
Hmm.
And it's cool. Deer to me, like I've never the deer rut's usually more later in the season, but you can go after it during rifle and bow, late season bow with deer. I haven't done as much as that, but a lot of people do.
Okay. Yeah, I've always appreciated it, and I've had some like family who've been into hunting and stuff like that, and I've always wanted to give it a go. I just never really had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe now that I live up in New Hampshire, I can try to, but I've always been fascinated with it, and I've always thought it was cool because I appreciate the hunt, because I know it's not like you just go out there and you tag something. Like, no, like it's not that easy, and it's the experience of like being out there and tracking the animal, and maybe you take a shot and you miss and you lose it, and it's like, like start over again. But it's a whole thing, and I appreciate it, and I've always wanted to try it. I just haven't done it yet.
I mean, elk meat's great.
I've had elk meat.
If you get a bull or you get a cow, you're just happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So venison's great too. I like whitetail better than mule deer. Mule deer's it's got a sagebrush taste to it. It's a lot more gamey.
Okay.
So
I don't think I've ever had any venison. I know I've had elk because I know like people who follow me know that I'm very good friends with John Carney from LFD, and he's a big meat guy. And as much as he cooks steaks, he's also introduced me to like bison, elk, all sorts of different stuff that I've tried, and it's all been good. I remember elk. He gave me elk one time, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And I remember it being like really lean meat. The bison was also really good. And I remember that was kind of like my first foray, but I've never actually had deer meat either. Like I've never had like actual venison. But I've heard so many different people say so many different things about it too. Some people say, oh, it's really gamey, and you get other people who be like, well, it also depends on how you prepare it. I mean, kind of what's your take on the meat?
It depends on how you prepare it. I mean, you can obviously marinate it and get the gamey flavor out of it.
Yeah.
And then it's your shot. They say if you get a bad shot and and the deer runs a lot and it gets a lot of adrenaline in the meat, then it makes it more gamey.
Oh, I never heard that. That's interesting.
Interesting.
So you get a hunter ethically always wants to have a good clean shot. Like a heart shot, lung shot, and just drop them as soon as you can, just so there's no pain to the animal. But then that's also for the quality of the meat. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I never actually heard that before. It's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save all this information because hopefully I'll get to use it someday.
For sure.
I'm gonna be calling you like, Brandon, like I'm going for it. I'm going deer hunting. I'm gonna need some tips.
Yeah.
Oh man, let's hit our news really quickly. Our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. Head over to MicallefCigars.com today and head over to Smokin Tabacco to check out our reviews of Micallef Cigars, including the Micallef Black, rated 91 at SmokinTobacco.com. It is a blackout Micallef Cigars. Now, I had a couple of things here that I had. Sorry, I don't know why all my tabs are messed up. As you guys know, I mean, we're about a month out from PCA, so a lot of the stuff that we have really that we're hearing is a lot of early announcements for PCA and stuff like that. So I'm trying to kind of leave those for you guys to read later, kind of highlight some of the more interesting stuff. But one of the things that came out, Mitchell, I don't know if you saw this, but Foundation. Did you see the Foundation story this week?
I want to talk about that one, yeah.
Yeah.
The rebrand already on Matapa. Very strange.
Yeah, I thought so too. I saw that come across my desk, and I was like, that cigar hasn't even been out a whole year yet, and it's already being rebranded. And I know you were kind of big on that cigar. I don't know if I should say big. I remember you were really into trying it. I can't remember if you did. I thought you did.
I tried, I think, one sample of the Toro. I don't know if it was the Claro Maduro. Part of the reason, part of sometimes the confusion is like there's no sub bands on them, so you just get the cigar blank, and you don't know if you throw it in your humidor and then you go back to it 2 months later, like, dang, did I buy a Maduro or Claro? I have no idea. And at the end of the day, they're really just color sorting differences. The blends, I'm pretty sure the exact same. So, but yeah, that was one that I was excited for. I smoked it. I think there was a lot of polarizing uh, thoughts on the cigar in general. I've heard some people say it was amazing. I personally was. I wouldn't say it was a bad cigar, but I think I was maybe slightly underwhelmed by the cigar overall. But yeah, I was one like it's super strange that so quickly it was rebranded, and it still looks like that there won't be a secondary band on it saying Maduro or Claro.
Right.
And it looks like it's going with very similar themed colors as the Matapa. Obviously, a lot of foundation cigars having some key figures photo on their bands, and then some form of color scheme. So they're going with a new key figure there that has to do with more of like the intercorrelation of the covenant, and I think they were mentioning something about Menelik as well. So yeah,
Yeah, and skimming
it's
through
a
this,
whole
I don't I
tie-in.
don't think that I don't think that there was an explanation as to why they changed it. I mean, obviously there was a meaning behind the new name, which is the Axum, I think is how you say
Yeah,
that. Um, but never really like well, why not come out with another cigar called the Axum? Why change? Um, I don't think that was necessarily explicitly explained as to why why rebrand this cigar and why rebrand it so soon. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if we followed up with Nick. I'm sure we probably did. We just haven't heard back yet. But hopefully we find out. There's that. I just again, like you said, it's very interesting and it's like wow, what a quick rebrand on something that I don't know. I guess I didn't expect to see rebranded, and I don't think it's like a trademark issue or anything like that. I doubt that there's like
I,
another that
I
kind of
tried to
situation.
I tried to look at it again. Like I was like, maybe somebody had it trademarked. They just never used it
That's
as
true too.
something, or maybe like and they contacted Nick. That was the thing that I thought happened is like somebody has it trademarked for whatever reason, maybe even internationally. Like maybe it's not even a USA trademark. Maybe someone has it trademarked internationally, and he's like, I really want this cigar to go international. And they maybe emailed Nick and was like, hey man, like I know you just came out with this cigar, but like this has been a huge brand for me in this country, blah 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 blah. Like we in the US and Canada maybe have no idea about it. And Nick was like, man, I'm so sorry. I had no idea and I got to change it. Or maybe it has nothing to do with that. And maybe he just felt the story of Matapa and Ruben Dario wasn't really reaching the way he wanted it to. Um, I have no idea. Um, Again, in the press release, it has nothing about copyright, but for something to have such a drastic change so soon. Like I said, like it is his newest brand, pretty much, like his newest core line brand, and it has gone through a full name change, a full, look and everything. So, I wonder, obviously at the show, I'm sure he's going to get the question asked a lot, and I wonder if it's just going to be kind of similar to what they've read or put into the press release is, oh, we just wanted to, again, here it says Aksum represents a significant chapter in our journey, paying homage to the sacred history associated with the Ark of Covenant. And that's why they say they changed it. And they said the blend remains the same. And, but yeah, it's kind of has more to do with, because he created the Menelik as well. Um, and this character,
And Menelik's a great cigar. I
is,
remember when those came out several years
yeah.
ago, and those were fantastic.
And I think this guy's name is Ross Mokanen, who is, uh, or Haile Selassie's father. And again, Nick, on a lot of his interviews, has mentioned Haile Selassie many times, and
He
kind
has,
of the
yes.
Ethiopian
Yep.
tie-in with, again, covenant and religious kind of underlyings through there. So again, maybe he just wanted it to tie in as an entire brand more than the Nicaraguan side. I have no idea. Maybe, yeah. Again, it was very, very out of the blue, and I for some reason feel that there is some form of background copyright that we don't know about, and that has just been dealt with behind closed doors, and amicably, obviously.
We could be wrong about that. This could just be,
100%.
maybe they wanted to go a different
100%.
direction. Just want to disclaim that just before someone
Yeah.
tries to turn around and say we were making accusations. It's all speculation. One
All
thing I will
speculation.
say too, is and much to Nick's credit, I have a lot of respect for Nick because he is a great professional, and I could see there being some kind of issue possibly, and him just quietly dealing with it and then being like, yeah, we're gonna do this change, but like really just stay away from it. And I think that's kind of the best way to do it, and I think Nick does a great job of doing things like that. So just another shout out to him on that. But yeah, no, I am curious, and hopefully we find out just because it's just interesting. But if that's something he wants to kind of keep close to the vest, I understand that as well. So
For sure.
hopefully, yeah, like you said, we'll find out.
Unfortunately, sometimes we as media thrive on the drama of what's
The
happening.
gossip.
But at the same time, we definitely fully respect and fully understand when people, like I said, do things behind closed doors and get the business done without needing to put out 7 press releases or 3 Facebook statuses about it.
Yeah. There's definitely some companies out there that we get a lot of press releases from. And then there's some companies that don't send out a press release, and they make like an Instagram post, and then they ask us why we didn't cover it, and I'm like, I'll be honest with you, I don't live on Instagram, so I had no idea that you made an announcement because that's not where I get my information. I don't know. Sorry if that offends anybody, but that's just I don't know. It's just.
Oh yeah,
that's not. I don't consider Instagram a top source for news stories that go out on the website. If I see it, I'll be like, oh, I should call him and find out what this is all about. But I think Steve Saka we used to get press releases from Dunbarton. Now I just get Steve. I think like last week he's like, all right, he made it just a simple Facebook post. This is what I'm bringing to PCA. There it is, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And then I'll send him an email and be like, I need some information. But he's always good. I mean, he does. If I ask him for information, I'll give Steve credit. He gives us whatever we need. But yeah, it's funny the way people communicate with the media sometimes is interesting. You guys always do a good job.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you guys do a good job. There's a lot of people that do a good job. There's some people who are getting better. There's people who historically have been very subpar, and they're getting better.
Yeah.
Tatawahe has gotten better recently. Pete is one of those that like he'll post a picture of like the box and be like 5,000 cigars coming in the fall, and they're like, oh, that's an announcement right there. And then you'd have to text him and be like, hey, so like what is this? Like when's it coming out? What is it? And he'll tell you, but like they have been getting better. They have a thing that goes out now. I think Dan Wells is doing it. But yeah, it's they've been doing a good job recently. And then there's some companies that have receded a little bit, but whatever. We'll see what happens with that.
It happens, man. It happens.
It's just Brandon. And I apologize to make you sit through this. This is just the media crap that we deal with. This is like the nonsense of shenanigans that we all.
What was that? What did you say?
This is all the shenanigans. Oh, shenanigans. Shenanigans? You guys talking about shenanigans?
I expect news-wise, things are going to probably ramp up in the next week or two in terms of people's kind of possibly saying, hey, check this out for PCA, but it's still pretty quiet so far. We've had a few releases, a few little things here and there, but...
It's a difficult balance. It's like, do you want to be early or do you want to get in when it's oversaturated? And
it's true.
They're going to scroll through that. Nobody's going to actually catch what you do.
Yeah, as a brand owner, I mean, and I know that you guys haven't been around like as long as some of these companies have been around 40, 50, 60 years, where they've done this so many times. But like, I'm sure like these are things you think about too, like, like, hey, like, where do we want to be in that? Because it's like a floodgate, and then everyone's just throwing their shit out there.
My content is ready. It's on deck. And I don't want to be the first to the party, but I want to be there to where people will see it.
Yeah.
So that's just how you prepare as a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Our announcements are ready to go, and everyone will receive it. once the PCA stuff starts rolling out.
Right.
But I want it to be timed at a point where it's going to get the most traction.
Week before the show.
Honest?
Week before. You know why? Because the first stuff gets exciting, and then the next 2 or 3 weeks after that, it just becomes like there's like 7 stories a day, and it just becomes like, oh yeah, they got something. Oh shit, did you see? He's got one too, and oh, just got this one. They got 4 of these coming out, and it just becomes like, oh yeah, like look at this tally, and then it just becomes so routine. But then when you get to like that week before the show, it kind of slows down a little bit. Because now people are like getting ready to go do the show and stuff, and most of the announcements have been made. So then you got those people who make those last minute announcements like, oh, by the way, we're bringing this. And then it's fresh in your mind. So as you're going out there, you're like, oh, yeah, last week I saw that story. Because you're not going, oh, yeah, 4 weeks ago I saw this story. It's like, oh, last week, so-and-so.
It's fresh.
You know why? Because I can't tell you how many times on the way Nicole does this with me. And it'll be, we have to go. I swear to God, it's so many times. We got to go to so-and-so's booth. Did you see last week that he's got this and this? We got to make sure we hit. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. And it's always not like, oh, do you remember when Steve posted 4 months ago that he's bringing that new cigar? No, it's last week. Like, oh, I just saw this post. Like, we just put this story out. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then it's like it's still there as you're going to the show.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't know.
Boom.
So other brand owners, don't listen to that because I'm going to follow that.
As someone who takes the stories and puts them out,
Yeah.
and then I have to use that information for myself too. That's what works for me. I don't know. Maybe for a retailer who's coming to buy and stuff, maybe it's different. But as a media guy who has to stay on top of what's going to be there, like that's what works for me. So that's hopefully that helps you.
But I did want to show one of our boxes.
Oh, absolutely.
If I can.
Absolutely.
So what we do, we're a little different. We love hunting and fishing in Montana and the outdoors. And we come with this is one of our core line boxes. This is our Bitterroot cigar. It's a 20-count box. It's very, very clean. It gets the point across with our branding. But when it's on the shelf.
Very classic, too, if I might add.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What catches someone is when you go in there and it's
Montana.
in the humidor, that backdrop, there
you go.
It just draws people in. It's a beautiful picture. And so with marketing and like what I think of, like there's so many brands that do amazing things, but it just kind of gets just get caught in with everybody else. So what we thought of with our marketing strategy is like, how could we be a little bit different? And we was like, okay, let's represent ourselves. And so we did a beautiful picture, and that's a picture of the Bitterroot River, and that's our Bitterroot cigar. And we felt it really captures that. It really captures the people, and it brings them in, and it grabs that attention span for a little bit. And that's just a marketing play that we did by us. And it's been very effective.
Yeah.
And then we also have our shelf talker right there. That's for a Bitterroot cigar. And it's got the makeup of the cigar and the tasting notes. And that makes it very easy for the retailer because it's so hard to know when you're going to a store. And we have Stogie's, the oldest cigar shop in Montana, to know the makeup of every cigar that's in your store and all the tasting notes. And so we made up that shelf talker that makes it a tool for the retailer to sell.
Right.
And for the buyer. Because when you want to buy something, you want to know, like, oh, what's the makeup of it? What's it taste like? And so we thought of it as being the buyer and then being the retailer, like what would make it so it's an easier tool and that's what we've came up with. And it's been very successful for us.
In my personal opinion, I would say I like shelf talkers. I know that this particular conversation has been had with, retail people who've done shows and stuff and talk about it and or have been guests and whatever. And, I know that there's people who say that they don't like the shelf talkers. It's too much or whatever. I've heard people say that, the shelf talkers are great. People talk about, Perdomo, for example. They're a company that gets used a lot as an example for their boxes and the way that they're their merchandising is on their shelves and whatever, because they got all the boxes and the way that they like them planned out a certain way. They all have the shelf talkers, and I'll give them credit. They do a great job.
But they're hard to read.
They are.
Ours are easy to read.
What I will say though is, in a general sense, though, the shelf talker, I do like the shelf talker.
Yeah.
Personally, I agree. I like when I'm going through a store and it grabs your attention because you're like, well, what's this? I'm gonna read it. So it's like you see it and like, oh, okay, and then it kind of brings you in, and you spend a few more minutes or a few more seconds than you probably would have just glazing through, like, what's out there, what do I like, what do I know, what's different, and then you see, oh, and you read, and then you're like, oh, and now you've been captured by it. And I'll tell you, at least 7 times out of 10, when I've been looking in a shop and I see something different that I don't recognize, and it's got the shelf talker, I'm like, and then I read a little bit of information, and then it just starts to get me thinking about it, and then I'm just like, you know what, at this point now I'm just too curious, I want to try it.
Yeah.
And it does work, but again, I bring this up because I know there's people out there who have been like, oh, these boxes with the shelf, it's too much, and I don't know. I don't think so. I disagree, and I think that's a smart move.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's the way we're moving forward, and it's been successful for us, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and I think again, there's a lot of cool boxes out there. Believe me, I'll be the first to tell you. There's some badass boxes out there, and I think they are great. They deserve the praise and whatever. Some of them, the cigars are great too. Some of them, they're all right, but the packaging was cool. But again, like, you guys went with the real clean classic look, which I think also is very important as well. There's a lot of classic brands out there. They still go with the classic, the raw wood or the simple wood box with just the branding on it. And I'll tell you, at the same time, it's worked for those brands. It's classic. It's easy to remember because you don't have all this other nonsense. You just remember that one logo right in the middle of the box. And I like clean. As much as I like cool stuff too, I'm also like, I like clean. So when I see a box like that, you look at a box like that, or like the Padron box, it's kind of the same thing. It's just the simple box, Padron. That's it. There's nothing fancy about their boxes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it makes a powerful statement with just that, and I think that's kind of what you've done here too, and I think it looks great. And I like what you guys have done with the imagery inside the box because it's different. It's really cool.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's not like it's just like part of the branding. It's like, no, here's another thing that's on theme, but it's not like just another like logo. It's like, this is our story that we're trying to tell.
Yeah.
So, no, a job well done, and I'm glad you brought those out because that was really cool to look at. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I know we're getting towards the end of the show here, so I know we don't have too much more time, but I will say, I'm really excited, since I've met you and gotten to know you over the last year. I've watched you continue to grow.
Yeah.
And you guys have done a great job. Your cigars are great. I mean, for the price point, and we were talking about this before the show, just the kind of the quality of just everything, but especially the cigars and the tobacco you're using. These are some great cigars, and it's been exciting to watch you continue to grow, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to catch up with you again in a month in Vegas.
I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great time. Yeah, the business it's been a great experience for us, coming from Montana where nobody was like, oh, these guys have no shot at all.
Right.
And now we're in 35 states and close to 200 brick and mortars.
Good for you.
So it's we're in a great momentum, and
Yeah.
the trajectory is going. It's sustainable, and it's I'm just excited where we're going to be, maybe not next year, but in 10 years. And that's where I look.
Yeah.
Right.
So
No, I think that's a very appropriate outlook too. It's like, where are we going to be in 5, 10, 15 years from now?
yeah.
A couple years, you can get, I mean, you never know what happens tomorrow, right? But a couple years, like, yeah, you can kind of figure out, but yeah, 10 years, it's like, and that's, it's something I've always said to myself too, like, just in general, oh, 10 years from now, where are we going to be? And it's exciting to think about, because you think like, wow, 10 years is a lot of time. Imagine how much we can get done. And for a brand, you can do a lot of growing in 10 years.
Yeah, we've done a lot of growing in 1 year. So
You can also go out of business very quickly, but
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, no, I agree, and I think that that's a good mindset. Yeah. No, I wish you guys nothing but the best, like I said, and I mean that too. there's a lot of up and coming brands. You guys are a brand that I know has been talked about on the team, so good for you guys. Seriously.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And it's nice to see people from other parts of the country, like bringing their story out. Like we kind of were talking about before, like a lot of people, they're coming out of Florida or whatever, but we're seeing more of these other companies popping up, and like these. I don't want to use the word odd because it doesn't mean that people are odd, but for a cigar origin, it's like, oh, Montana, like you said, like Montana cigar company, that's kind of different, but it's at the same time, you guys have a very unique story to tell. So, and you've done a great job so far.
Oh, we have a great team too. I mean, you mentioned Brian earlier. He's on the show tonight. He's done a great job up here in the Northeast, and we have 5 brokers now on the team, and they've been doing a great job for us. So our growth this next year, I'm really excited for, and just to service the clients that we have now, and to go out and keep meeting people, and going out and doing events, and the growth that we're going to have this upcoming year. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year. I think with the trade show being earlier too, I'm hearing
huge for the North.
Yeah, I'm already hearing that from brands and retailers that do business up here, and it's going to be good to get stuff out early in the year, be done with it, and then you head into like that busier time. The show's already done.
I talked to an account down in Texas last week, and I was like, hey, how you been doing? Just wanted to do like a refresher, see how he's doing, because he's a good friend. And he's like, yeah, I still haven't received my order from last year's PCA. He's like, I'm not sure I'm going to go to the show this year. And it wasn't from us, but just from other retailers.
Right.
And I'm just like, holy cow. Like, it's a good problem and a bad problem. It's more of a bad problem in my mindset, but, and I hope never to be there if you can plan correctly. But, it's just, that was pretty wild for me to hear that.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard those stories too. And, some brands are on it better than others. Some of them, the reasons are just access to materials, or, stuff wasn't up to quality. I get that shit.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of doing business. And
hopefully that never happens to us.
some of it also too is just other stuff too, and that's that. I've heard some I won't really get into specifics, but I've heard other stories, and I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of irresponsible, but okay. It's not my company. But it's an exciting time, and I'll be curious to see how the manufacturers and the retailers kind of do with the early show this year.
I love PCA being in March. Just allows the product to get out there at the shelves for the people when they want to buy in March and April and May. Then it's available during the main peak buying seasons for half the country. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know why PCA didn't do this years ago.
Right.
So it's a good thing. I'm really happy with the change.
Yeah. It'll be a fun show. It's our last year in Vegas before we head over to New Orleans.
Oh God!
Which is going to be 25.
We'll be able to walk outside in Vegas and not instantly want to die and melt in our shoes.
This is true
to
too.
the floor.
This is true too. It won't be 120 degrees.
Bring a jacket, because it will be slightly cool outside at night.
Like a brisk 75.
The last 2 years, I didn't leave the Venetian for each trade show for like the whole time. Like you're on the trade show floor, you get done, have dinner, then you go home, you go back to your room, pass out, wake up, repeat. So
I got married in Vegas in July. Well, we got married inside, and it was nice. But then we did like wedding photos outside, and we did photos at the Bellagio. And I just remember being like, I know this is my wedding day, and I can't be a piece of shit, but like I'm ready to be done because it's just so hot. And I got a 3-piece tuxedo on, and I just like, and I know Nicole's like got a whole like dress on, and I'm like, it's 120 degrees, like, and the sun's still up, like I want to be done, like I'm so hot, like this is just horrible.
Yeah.
There I go, they're like, okay, we're gonna do this pose, and I'm like, how many fucking more photos do we have to take? I just want to go inside. Oh yeah, so yeah, I am looking forward to that. I won't be so hot at the show this year, but yeah, then New Orleans in 25, and unconfirmed rumors I'm hearing through the grapevine is New Orleans also could be 26 as well.
Wow. I'm interested to hear the game plan about New Orleans.
That those unconfirmed rumors, but I've heard them. So take that as you will for the time. We'll probably maybe get more answers when we get to this show this year on 26. If not, we'll definitely know by next year. But that's what I've heard so far. So take that as you will. Take it with a grain of salt until it gets confirmed by someone that actually works for the BCA. And I don't know. Could be fun. I don't know. There's been mixed reports on New Orleans. We'll see what happens when it finally unfolds. But that's going to be our show for tonight. Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This was cool having you here. I hope that I get to do this a lot more. Hope you come back. And can't wait to see you at the trade show.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Look forward. You too, Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell.
We'll see you there.
I can't wait to reunite with you. I've missed you so much.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hug your beautiful big body.
Whoa. Let's not get too carried away. It's a little too much. But, yeah, I want to hug too. Anyway, that's going to be our show for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, especially if you're listening later on our podcast downloads. Head over to SmokinTabacco.com for more news, reviews, our PCA coverage brought to you by Drew Estate, and other updates from the cigar industry. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
Have a good night.